So tonight I want to look at Psalms 55, 1 through 8. Um, Psalms 55, 1 through 8, and I'm actually going to be reading from the NIV version. And he says, this is David speaking in Psalms 55. Listen to my prayer, O God. Do not ignore my plea, he says. Hear me and answer me. My thoughts trouble me, and I am distraught. He says in verse 3, because of what my enemies is saying, because of the threats of the wicked, for they bring down suffering on me and assail me in their anger. My heart is in anguish within me. The terrors of death have fallen on me. Fear and trembling has beset me. Horror has overwhelmed me. Verse 6, he says, I said, oh, that I had the wings of a dove. I would fly away and be at rest. 7, I would flee far away and stay in the desert. Verse 8, and would hurry to my place of shelter, far from the tempest and the storm. This is David. He is this is a psalm of him. We're gonna lay our edge on verse 6. Oh, that I would have the wings of a dove. And as you listen to this, it makes us remember that, it makes me think about sometimes life can be too much to bear. Basically, sometimes you can get tired of fighting, struggling, you can get tired of working and being overwhelmed, that you just want to fly away. You just want to get away. You want to be like a bird and just be able to take off at any moment that you feel overwhelmed and not really wanting to deal with life issues and circumstances. You know, you just kind of think to yourself, do you ever feel like that? Exhausted in the journey of life, exhausted dealing with problems and circumstances and situations over and over again, that you just get tired, you just get fed up. And sometimes this is why people who struggle with anxiety and sometimes with depression, they're overwhelmed with life. It's more than they can bear. Thank you, yo. It's too much. And they don't have an out, and so they desire to find some place. Thank you, honey. I love you. So David was in great distress when he penned this psalm. In Psalms 55, David's life was in severe danger over a long period of time. And we are not told about when this happened, but more than likely it was the time when his very own son Absalom, if many of you know that story, how he decided to make himself king and he took over the kingdom. And instead of fighting, David organized his affairs and left with a train of people and supplies. Like, he literally just took off. He ran for his life as if he saw no way out. Like he said, I was distraught. And in this Psalms, it's a prayer where David expresses his deepest distress to solicit the compassion of God. David not only had trouble all around him, but he had terrors within him. David wanted wings to fly away, not just to have a physical retreat or vacation like some of us do every year, but he had a desire to flee from his overwhelming thoughts about what would happen. If we even pay attention to the text, we see David spend most of his time in prayer about what the enemies were doing. He was fearful. He said, my thoughts trouble me and I'm distraught because of what they're saying, because of the wicked threats, because of the assaults and everything that they're saying over and over again. He is anger. He is fearful. He's afraid. He says, I fear for my life. And not that anything has already happened. It is just he's afraid of what he's hearing from the people that are threatening him. And so he's afraid, and so he decides, like, I need to get away. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm struggling. I'm fearful. And so, you can just imagine, as David, who's the leader over this kingdom, you can just imagine what he's thinking in his mind. He says, my thoughts are overwhelming. My thoughts are troubling me. I can't even focus. And I'm sure David was thinking a lot of things. He was probably thinking, what is he gonna do? Where am I gonna go? who's gonna go with me, who's supporting me, what did I do, God, and God, why is this happening to me, and you know who are these people coming against me? It's so many things that he can think of. What am I going to tell my people that I'm king over? What am I going to tell the soldiers that are looking up to me and needing a command? And so many things that go through his mind. How can I fix this? We find ourselves sometimes in those same situations. What should I do, Lord? Should I do this? Well, let me think. Especially as women, we're nurturers, and we're kind of like fix-it people, and so we can always be thinking about, what can I do? What should I do? This I should do this. Let me call this person. This person could help, and all of these different things, and become overwhelmed. We become anxious. David says, my thoughts troubled me. And so many times in our mind, our different emotions, fear and anger and disgust and anguish, all of these things are running through our head, giving us the inability or the incapability of appropriately thinking, because now we're thinking about what I need to do, like as if it rested on us. And as we talked about in our first series, in our first lesson in this series about breathing, we talked about Job 32:8, and how Elihu said that it is the Spirit of God that breathes into him the wisdom and the understanding, the know-how and the ability to speak with wisdom and clarity. And so when we do not take the time to consult God and to seek him in prayer and allow the Spirit of God, the Spirit of God to really rest on us and for us to breathe him in, then of course we will become weary. We'll become overwhelmed. We'll be troubled in our thoughts. As David said, he said, I'm troubled in my thoughts. He says, my heart is in anguish. Our heart will begin to be in anguish, because now we're anxious. We're overwhelmed. We're filled with anxiety. We're pushing and rolling ourselves over into depression. David even said, if I had wings, I would flee from this situation. And he says, I will go to a faraway place in a desert. Everybody know that deserts are a lonely place. It's a secluded place. There's a place of no food. It's a place of no land, no nourishment. It's a place of depression.